Hi, I'm Art Appleby. I joined Rotary in 1984. Jim Wilkerson was the president then. He inducted me, and members at the time were Mo Beers, among others. Um, Trying to remember some of the others. They'll come to me after a while. Um, we got involved in stuff right away. They were running Oktoberfest at the time, and they're getting ready for it for the next year. And pretty soon they asked me to do the club newsletter, which we called Potpourri, and I did that for about 8 or 9 years. And then I was president in 1988, 89 year. We had gotten involved in youth exchange over the intervening years, and I and my family hosted two students. We had 4 overall. One from Brazil, one from Germany, one from Denmark, and one from France. They were all a great deal of fun, and we ended that probably somewhere in 1990, I think, 1991 maybe.
So you hosted 4 families here?
We hosted, not families, high school students.
High school students, okay.
And let's see, Alexis, no, not Alexis, no. I'm not remembering an exchange student from high school. I'm trying to remember names. The guy from Brazil, and a girl from Germany.
How long were each of those with you?
The guy from Brazil was with us for about 6 months.
Wow.
The girl from Germany only about 1 month. So while I was president, Rotary made a major change in membership. They started to allow women to be members. This had something to do with Supreme Court decisions and various things that service clubs could not discriminate against women because they were not men. So we started taking in women. Our first female member was, you know the name. We talked about her the other day.
Cindy?
Cindy Gibbons.
Okay.
Cindy Gibbons. She was an insurance agent at first, and then she bought a screen printing business, and she was very, very aggressive marketer, and she did very well. She and her husband Frank lived in Brockport until probably around 2000, and moved back to Chicago where they were both from. But then there were other women, and very, very productive ones, and some were president. I think Cindy was the first female president in Brockport Rotary around, I gotta guess, 1990. I think that was the year. So then we were involved in Camp Hackaball, and one of my first projects with Rotary was helping to build a boathouse that Jim Wilkerson had designed. And it was one of the most interesting projects I can imagine. We were standing in mud, at least ankle deep, drilling holes with electric drills in I-beams that would be the foundation for the building. It was a shocking experience. We finished the boathouse, and it probably still stands. We did a good job on it. Of course, it has had to be leveled a little bit over the years because those posts have sunk, but that was a great project. And
that was at the Hackamo in Penfield, right?
Right. Off Penfield Road. That the property was surrounded by Nalgene Corporation, and I think Nalgene probably absorbed it eventually. It was sold a few years ago. So then I got involved in LPGA after that because Rotary had taken over that tournament as in 1975, I believe, and we ran concession tents on the course, and we set the course up ahead of time, and we got disabled children involved in it as beneficiaries and as participants. We had a putting contest that put a disabled child along with a couple of Rotarians and a pro, and so that happened on the Tuesday of the tournament every year. And Brad, can you stop that for a sec, because I'm bleeding. So the LPGA, as far as Rotary is concerned, lasted until 2008, and the Wegmans wasn't making enough money at it to balance what they had put into it, so they decided that they had to change things up. So Wegmans bought Rotary out of the LPGA, and we used that money to endow Camp Hackamore for the foreseeable future, and it's still working. So I guess it was a good move on their part. We missed that a lot because we had a lot of fun doing it. And I want to go back to youth exchange because I remembered some names. We had a young man from Brazil named Adriano de Souza. He was a lady killer, I'll tell you what. He was a handsome young man. He played soccer, and he did a lot of dancing, and he had a good time here. He was with us for one semester, and he lived with a couple of other families. The kids were here for a year. That was Rotary Youth Exchange. We had a young lady named Michaela from Germany who, I can't remember her last name. She stayed with us briefly, and then she stayed with, I think, 3 or 4 other families. And we had a young man, the last one was a young man named Lionel from France. Can't remember Lionel's last name either. He was with us for one semester, and he worked with a couple of other families after that. So moving right along, let's see, after about 2008, George Dahl got me involved in BISCO, which is Brockport Integrated Service Clubs organization, and thus involved in the Brockport Arts Festival. So since about 2010, I've been very involved in the festival, and I've been chairman of it since 2014, and handed that off to a couple of other people this fall. So I remain president of BISCO, but that's my only role right now, and I'm very grateful for that because I'm tired of doing all that stuff. Let's see. Way back in the day, Rotary had Oktoberfest, and it was started, I think, in the late 70s. They had a tent.
So wait, what year did you start again in Rotary?
84.
84. So it started.
It was ongoing then.
Oh, okay, got it.
I remember I started working in Brockport for Key Drug Company in 1974.
Okay.
Soon after that, they had this Oktoberfest that was in a big tent over at Duryea Motors.
Okay.
On South Lake Road.
Okay.
A big circus tent, and they had a kitchen in there and all kinds of beer, and they had music and dancing and all that. It was a good time. We used to close up the drugstore early so we could go over there and have some fun. But it got moved along about 1984 or 5. It got moved to the Quonset hut, very, very large Quonset hut on the west side of Redmond Road. It belonged to the college, but the building was so big we could drive beer trucks right inside, park them along the edges, and they have taps coming out the side of them. We had a grand old time in there, and the last one was 1987. The last profitable one. We had a skip 1988, and we had it in 1989. Maybe I got my years mixed up. Maybe the last profitable one was 86. We skipped 87 and repeated it in 88. Anyway, having stopped for a year, 88 wasn't very successful, and so we never did it again. After that, we started, this was Cindy Gibbons' idea, we started the CD dinner, which we did at the Elks Lodge for many years. I think it must have been almost 20 years we did that. Usually in February or March or April, somewhere in that neck of the woods. And we would sell tickets for it and have raffles and of course lots of ziti and pasta and stuff, and we'd get all that stuff donated so that we could make some money for our various causes. I have photographs of me and Court Fowler serving food and the cooks in the back room making pasta and various things. We had the scouts involved doing cleanup. We had various dance groups from the college and the high school doing their dances, and it was a good time. Eventually, though, sponsorships dwindled off, and so did the attendees, and so we wound up saying no, it's too much. And then later on, I think probably around maybe it was 2010, 2011, Brockport Rotary decided to have a barbecue fest. And it was a competition barbecue fest sanctioned by the Kansas City Barbecue and the Boston Barbecue Association. I think it's Boston. And that ran for about 5 years at Northampton Park. We had dozens of barbecue participants, and we had arts and craft vendors, and we had lots of music. Doug Clare was the man in charge of the music, and he liked bluegrass, and we had plenty of that. We used the ski lodge as a kind of a what do you call that?
Stage?
Nah, it was where we got everything ready and kind of a prep area.
Prep area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, we got generators to run stuff. We got them all donated, and it was a pretty good time for years. But it cost more money than it made, and so that didn't last either. Things come and go. I remember geraniums. We used to sell geraniums, and we would take orders throughout March and April, and we would go get them right around Mother's Day, and we would deliver and sell them off the street corners in the village, and once again that's another thing that went by the wayside somewhere along in the early 2000s. Let's see, what else did we do?
Out of all the things that you did, what kind of grabbed you the most? What was the most interesting for you? I mean, you talked about the Oktoberfest, the LPGA, geranium sales.
The thing that I was the most involved in, I think, was LPGA, because Brockport Rotary partnered with Spencerport Rotary and Penfield Rotary to run a concession stand on the 9th green. That was right next to the clubhouse at Locust Hill Country Club, and a very busy location because people would get off the bus and come by us on their way into the tournament, and people would go by us from going, following the golfers. That kind of tailed off around, I want to say 2004, because they moved the bus stop. They created a bus loop down by the driving range, which made it so we didn't get that half of the crowd, and things slowed down.
That's too bad.
Things slowed down for us, but we still had the lunch crowd, and we did well with them.
Well, I've heard some stories about the LPGA, Court Fowler, renting a hotel near there and getting up at dark 30 and stuff like that.
Court and I did that together and I didn't never bunk with him, but he had a motel room, and I had a friend who lived about a mile away, so I stayed with my friend. It was an hour's, 45-minute drive from here.
Right.
You could make it in a half an hour early in the morning, but not going by the speed limit. And just like have to get up at 4:30 and drive. No. So I bunked with my friend and got up at 6, and I was there by 6:30. So yeah, it was
So did you spend much time at Hackamo itself?
I only went to Hackamo for the annual cleanup. We
Right.
did that in the spring every year. We whack all the weeds and
Right.
repair the deck and paint stuff and
I think
do a
I
lot of
went for
cleaning.
that one time. I think it was like its last time when I was in the club.
Yeah. We only really worried about the boathouse and the dock,
Right.
and they both needed repairs every year, especially that dock. It took a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah.
Um,
So any specific incidents that you can recall that stood out in your mind? Anything that you can share that you know?
Memory's not serving me.
That happens.
There were lots of them though.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun. The last project that I got involved in there was there was a ramp that went from the driveway down to the boathouse, down to the dock, I should say.
Right.
And that ramp took a lot of beating in it, and especially in the wintertime because there was ice in that little pond, and that would shift everything up and down and back and forth, and so that had to be rebuilt. And so we took it apart, and the barrels underneath the dock had to be taken out from under there one at a time. There was four great big barrels full of air that supported that dock, and they were in little cages so that they couldn't get away. They had to be taken out and refilled with air and put back under there, and then we fixed the ramp, and George Dahl had a lot to do with that project.
One thing that kind of keeps coming into my mind is I've seen some of the membership numbers over the years. Do you remember, what the years were when it was peak membership, and do you remember any of that stuff? Or?
I don't remember what the membership was when I joined, but I don't think it's really changed an awful lot over the years. I mean, it probably peaked a little bit when Doug Clare was president, because he brought in 8 people.
Right.
The year he was president.
Right.
So we might have had close to 30 that year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
But we've been around 2022 forever. That's been the number.
So right now we're at 18.
So we're a little low right now.
We're a little low.
Pick up a couple more and
Yeah.
get back to average again.
That would be good.
That would be good, yeah. But we've had a lot of fun back when I can't say when it changed. When I became a member, we did a lot of singing. We did a lot of fining. There was no limit to fining back then. I mean, in Spencerport, for example, there was a guy who lost his barn to a fire. He got fined $40 for the privilege. They were ruthless.
I guess.
They were ruthless, and that was the way you ran the club.
Yeah.
By fines, and any money that you made from activities went straight to the camps or straight to whatever other charities you had to give to, and so that the youth exchange, for example, was funded by Oktoberfest and by geranium sale and various things that we did. And the club is run on fines.
Very interesting. Is there anything else that you can think of that you want to share about that on this honorary occasion, Brockport 50th?
Well, I was president on the 20th anniversary, and we had a big party at Deerfield Country Club.
Oh, that's neat.
That. And of course, I was criticized for not doing enough, but I think we had a pretty good time. The president of the original club in 1969 was in my club, in the club still, when I was president.
What was his name again?
That was Frank Donahue.
Frank Donahue. Yeah, I've heard that name.
Excellent voice. He was quite a singer. But then we had, I got to think of a character that, what was his name? Irish guy. his name here.
Oh, one of the members?
Yeah. He was,
Donahue?
no, it wasn't Donahue. I don't know if he was ever president. I'm taking up time on you.
It's okay. The video time is free.
Yeah. It's not coming to me. Let's see if you got any awards here. But the Irv Kropman Award. Oh, I have to tell you about the honor of working with Irv Kropman. Irv was he was one of the most colorful guys you ever want to meet in your entire life.
Yeah?
He had a family, which I don't blame them for kicking him out because he couldn't stop moving. He was when I first joined the club, he ran the 7-Eleven store in Brockport. It was on Sweden Hill Road.
Okay.
Just beyond the curve. Right now it's a doctor's office, pediatrician's office, I guess. And he for Rotary he was the secretary. And while he was secretary, Sandy Parlato was the treasurer. And if you said anything wrong, Irv would be all over you. He would, when he was president, he would find, oh my goodness, he had no heart. It seemed to have no heart. But at any project, at any event, he was the first one there, and he was the last one to leave. When we did our traffic stop, and we did it in the spring, I don't think we had more than one a year. Right around Easter, he was dressed up in a bunny costume. And we had the traffic stop at that time. It was at the corner of Main and State.
Oh, okay. In
the village. And Irving would stick that beer pitcher right in people's car windows and say, fill her up. And people didn't like that necessarily.
Yeah, I bet they didn't.
He almost got in a fight with one or two of those people. He was quite a guy. But he passed away. We created an award for Irv Kropman, which would exemplify members who were willing to go all out, were willing to be the first one there and the last one to leave.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I had the honor of getting that award.
That's nice for us people that didn't actually know him to understand the meaning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat. Did you come up with that name yet? The Irish name?
Almost.
Almost. Probably if I wouldn't have asked.
Tom Loftus.
Okay.
Tom Loftus. Tom lived in Spencerport with his wife, and he had worked at the A&P plant in Brockport. And it's a small world because 2 or 3 of the original members worked at that plant.
Oh.
Rudy Smith was the plant manager in the late 1980s and early through the 1990s. Tom Loftus was a former worker there. He had retired. Ken Gurnett was in freight transportation, but he drove trucks for them.
Okay.
And there was like I said, there was a few others who in the original club that worked at A&P. A&P became Clean Bright.
Right. And
they kept Rudy Smith because he's a chemist, and they kept him on as plant manager when Clean Bright was there until he retired. And that was about the time they sold it off. Can't remember exact years in here, but so we never had anybody from GE. Yeah, we did have. Who was that? I can't remember. GE was a plant in Brockport that they closed in,
Yep.
in the early 1980s. But Tom was the representative for the club to the Hakamo board.
Oh, okay.
Tom Loftus, and he would stand up at meetings and he did not understand why we weren't there every weekend cleaning things up and I have to do this all by myself. And yes, Tom, I guess you do.
Very vocal, huh?
Yeah, very vocal, but a good man.
That's cool. So, anything else you can think of you want to relate?
I'm sure there's a lot, but I can't think of it right now.
All right, very good, Art. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.